Governments are no longer denying it. The military are no longer denying it. And even mainstream media no longer denies it. They're here and have been here for a very long time. The Mutual UFO Network has been on the front lines uncovering the truth since 1969. And now we're sharing the truth with you. Welcome to MUFON's What's Up with hosts Katie Griboski, Christopher DePerno, and Katie Cook, exclusively on the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. Wondering what's up? So are we.
What's up, everybody? It is Thursday night, and you are listening to MUFON What's Up Radio, the show that says discovery starts with curiosity, and curiosity starts with MUFON. I hope that you are all having a great night, and I'm so glad that you are here with us this evening, and I hope you've had a great, fantastic week as well. I am happy that we have a super great guest tonight. We have Dev Rugne out of Northern California, and she will be with us here in about 35 minutes, and we are looking so forward to having Dev on the show tonight. As always, you are listening to MUFON What's Up Radio, brought to you by KGRADB.com. I hope that you go to their website and check them out. And as always, we are endorsed by MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network. Always asking that all-important question, are we alone in the universe? First, before we get to all our great news and information, I need to introduce and would like to introduce our co-hosts. First, we have Katie Cook. She's been investigating the paranormal and UFOs for quite some time now. Welcome, Katie.
Hi, good to be here again. And of course, we're not alone in the universe, right? There's no way. There's no way.
Right. And we have State Director and ERT member Chris DePerno from New York. Welcome, Chris.
I'm just looking out the window.
You're looking up.
Anything. If we're not alone in the universe, I want to see if somebody's watching. Anyways, great show tonight. We're going to have a blast.
You know what? I thought you were doing like the Brady Bunch, like looking up at us.
I like that.
Okay. Well, we kind of got those squares, so we can look up and stuff like that. Actually, I'm watching to see if it's snowing up in Buffalo, New York.
Oh, Lordy. It always is, isn't it?
Yeah. The weather forecast said it was cold this morning. It was very cold this afternoon. And tonight's weather forecast says, please, God, make it stop. So
cold and more
You're
cold.
like, thanks for nothing.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, Katie, what do you have to kick us off this week?
Well, let's kick it off with a smile. You know, I always like to bring you a funny meme. We've got a good one this week. Oh, yeah, this is a cute one. A couple aliens there if you're just listening. So there's a skunk on the examining table, and one alien with a probe in hand says, now I'll just take this probe. And the whole meme is labeled Earth's final alien abduction. I think they would probably do it. I think that would make them just be gone and stay gone. All right, I've got a cute paranormal pop for you again this week. I always do. It's another Valentine's themed one. Say that a few times fast. Look how cute. It's like a chocolate card with Bigfoot on it, and he's got little roses. He's going to his love. Isn't that so sweet? And you know, there's probably still time for you to get these pops in time for Valentine's. So be sweet to your sweetie if your sweetie loves all things paranormal, and get some paranormal pops. There's a website right there.
Is Bigfoot's name's Larry? Is that right? From the commercials, is that right?
Oh, I think
Bigfoot
so.
Larry.
Yeah.
I wonder what his love's name is. Larry and Lona.
Lona. I like Lona. Yeah, I was going to go with Fuzzy or something, but Lona sounds a little nicer. And I also have this. Oh, God, I love these. I'm so excited to show you these. So for those of you that love yoga, meditation, and aliens, look how cute these guys are. Well, cute to some, probably horrific to others. But I think they're really cute. Look at that little yoga pose. And in case you wondered if aliens have butts, look, they got little bottoms.
It's butt crack.
So yeah, these meditating aliens, they're on Etsy. They're handmade. The description says they are 4 inches tall. I think they look really cute. And they're available at the Sci-Fi Shop on Etsy. So check them out.
I'll
Oh,
check
there
out the
it
first
goes.
two. The butt crack one, I'm not sure I can put that up. I'm sorry. Looking at an alien's butt crack.
I was showing my
No.
little Rafiki alien or meditative dude so they would look good next to him.
Oh yeah, I think you need to get them. I know what I'm getting you for Christmas, if not sooner. Definitely. All right, Chris, news of the week. What you got for us?
Well, let's see. What do we got? Eerie fleet of UFOs filmed in Illinois. A particular piece of footage circulating online shows several mysterious orbs floating through the night sky in Illinois, and some suspect that the odd glowing objects could be alien in nature. The intriguing sighting was reportedly occurred in late November in the community of Beach Park, but was only reported in MUFON recently. The curious objects appeared to be flying in formation towards Lake Michigan and vanished in midair. Fortunately, despite being bewildered by what they are seeing, the observer managed to capture the remarkable sighting on the film. And we're going to get to that in just a little bit. The puzzling video begins with a trio of lights first appearing in the sky, and the initial thought is that perhaps it's a triangular UFO. Looks like one to me, but I don't know. However, the scene gets even stranger when the amazed witness notices that they described as a flotilla of 5 additional glowing orbs suddenly appear over the horizon. To their credit, the person behind the camera does an admirable job of trying to follow the lights and thought the objects largely remained unknown despite the individual's best effort to hunt for the UFOs. Now, let me tell you something, folks. I went and called the state director, Sam Morano, outstanding man, and this thing is still being investigated. I might get him on next week for a short little bit just to tell us what he actually found out about this. But let me continue with the story. As for what the odd objects might have been, some imagine the UFO enthusiasts have suggested that the orbs were a fleet of alien crafts en route to a long rumored secret ET base hidden beneath the surface of Lake Michigan. They better have the thermals because Lake Michigan is cold this time of year. Most skeptically minded observers have offered more than down-to-earth suggestions, such as drones and lanterns. Possibly. The later explanation seems to make the most sense given the way the orbs floated in almost listless fashion before finally vanishing from sight. That said, what exactly the witness saw remains a mystery. Amanda, would you roll that video?
Perfecta triangulación. Esto está sucediendo aquí en Beach Park, Illinois, justamente arriba de Waukegan, Illinois. Oh, y allá vienen más. Es una flotilla. Oh, eso que se ve arriba es el reflejo de los carros. Y ya van esos 4, 5. Y de este lado tenemos los otros 3 que llevan detrás del árbol. 1, 2, 3. Vamos a ver un zoom in. Wow. Y de acuerdo, vamos a ver si hay otro. Será otros 2. De la dirección en la que vienen del aeropuerto de Waukegan, Illinois.
Well, real Chinese lanterns, drones, I don't know, but we'll let you decide. Cookie, what do you think?
Well, first of all, I love that you got to use the word flotilla because that's like my favorite word for some weird reason. So I'm like,
I'll make
hey,
sure that it's in every story.
we got
Flotilla.
flotilla in a story.
Flotilla.
If they're headed to Lake Michigan, like you said, that's pretty cold. Do you remember when Debbie Ziegelmeyer was saying there's this theory that maybe of craft USOs, as they go into the water, that maybe they can actually repel the water away from the craft. So maybe they're just in there with their hot chocolate and it's not bothering them. I'm going to go with Chinese lantern, especially at the beginning. I will say at the end of the video, to me, I was kind of going, okay, now it's not looking quite as much like lanterns to me. But I think initially it looks like there's a party on the ground and one by one they're letting them off. That's what I'm thinking is happening. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know, Katie.
They are very bright, but the way they're just sort of floating, I mean, they seem to be moving like a Chinese lantern would. And they're kind of just drifting up. And then there's those couple that are further off. Like you said, Katie, they maybe let a few go and then some more. So I would lean towards lanterns as well. I mean, it'd be another thing if they suddenly were popping off or split off or, something, one of the observables that Lou Elizondo talks about. But
I talked to Sam, and Sam says they're still investigating this because one of the things that bothers him is that high up in the air, Chinese lanterns may flow independently. And if you look at the triangle, it stays uniform. It's absolutely there. So does the wind current keep it that way into almost a perfect triangle? But I think they're going to actually break it down to see the measurements and see how long the measurements stay on that triangle, if they can do that and stuff. So maybe we'll get a update next week from Sam.
Yeah. And I always thought it'd be fun too to experiment with things like that, like let some go and do some, although that's hard to do because the wind is always different, but really cool. That's awesome.
You do. Yeah. Bringing up the wind is important because it would have to be, I think, a really still night for them to stay in that formation the way they did. And there's obvious car lights, reflecting in the video too, but I think those are so low and I think those are really obvious what those are. So I don't think that should confuse the investigation at all.
No, I agree with that, but hopefully we'll get more of an answer within next week sometime.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, let's get on to our next story. Inside a dying Japanese town obsessed with aliens. And you thought only the United States was obsessed with aliens. Wrong. This town has a striking mountain that residents believe attracting flying saucers. Nestled among wooded mountains outside Fukushima City, I knew I butchered that word, lies the small town of Lino, home to fewer than 1,900 people. Abandoned roads lead to nowhere, and some storefronts remain closed all year round. Amid this eerie stillness, there are telltale signs that Lino just isn't another deserted earthly town. Statues of aliens stand proudly across the town. Its mascot is a small white alien piloting a gold flying saucer that makes random appearances. Unsurprisingly, one of the Lino's most prized dishes is ramen served in a bowl made of stones, rumored to attract extraterrestrial visitors. Okay, I never thought ramen noodles could do that, but what do I know? Stories of alien sightings and landings of mysterious aircraft have emerged from the Lino as far as back of 1970s. Now I'm going to butcher this name too. Toshigo Kinshasa, a researcher of unidentified flying objects, said he first saw such a UFO in 1972 at the age of 25. Kinshasa was hiking a mountain in Fukushima when suddenly a saucer-like shape appeared in front of him. Then suddenly it was gone. Folks, I haven't been drinking. I'm just reading it the way it is. In September of 2020, Japan launched protocols to analyze aerial phenomena, encouraging Lino's alien believers to open in June the country's first ever lab. Oh, that's amazing, though. They got a lab there aiming to observe UFOs. In Lino, stories of alien life have for decades revolved around the pyramid-shaped mountain Shigamori and its nearby wilderness. The summit has given rise to rumors that it was artificially constructed by aliens. Some even believe an alien air base lies underneath. I can't see how these aliens are going to stay there because you can't pronounce anything there. All right, Amanda, would you roll that tape?
Senganmori Mountain is a mystical and mysterious place. The legend is that it was created by aliens. Ever since the 1970s, residents from the nearby town of Ino, Fukushima, have reported seeing strange flying objects here. Ryuichi Aso grew up in Ino, hearing stories about the unidentified flying objects. He's dedicated his adult life to solving the mystery and now helps to run a new UFO research center at the base of Mount Senganmori.
Right now we're heading to the contact deck, and this is where we can come into contact with UFOs and aliens. So apparently, on this mountain, if you use a compass, the needle doesn't line up where north is supposed to be. And there are a few spots on this mountain where you can check this mysterious energy that apparently aliens might be using to get back home.
And so what do? What does the city of Lino do? They put up a UFO museum, which I think is really neat. I think it's a great idea. Amanda, show that museum tape, would you?
Interest in extraterrestrials growing. The town of Ino opened its own research center in 2021, hoping to one day lead the world in the study of UFOs. Besides some pretty imaginative displays, the center is gathering serious data on life beyond Earth, including previously classified CIA reports and eyewitness accounts of alien encounters. UFOs and aliens have been appearing in Japanese literature since the 19th century.
Wow, that's super interesting.
Yeah, they actually put up a great museum there. Cookie, what do you think? Other than I butchered everything that I could say. I want a story where I could say John Smith from Oklahoma, instead of whatever this name was.
Okay, so I was so glad you showed a couple videos so I could try to calm down. First of all, this is on my travel bucket list. I absolutely need to go to this place. It looks amazing. And I thought it was ramen. You're saying ramen. Have I been saying it wrong my whole life? I thought it was ramen noodles.
How about just floured noodles?
There you go.
There. Okay.
You know what? I don't think a whole town could really think that this is a real phenomena, if it isn't. So I'm with them. I want to go hang out with some people that totally believe in it. How cool would it be? I mean, like, I know how we feel when we go to like a symposium or conference and we're like, we're around our people. We all need to go there and do the show from there and be like, we're around our people.
Right.
You can hike up the side of the mountain. I'll go to the restaurant and eat the ramen noodles.
Ramen
noodles. I sat up higher in my chair when they took out the compass and they said, oh, it has something to do with the magnetic. I was like, yeah, okay, it's real. They do have UFOs there because, they love that high magnetic stuff. There's something to that. I am telling you. So, yeah, that was cool. And yes, let's go there for sure.
I think we got to make it happen. Well, those are awesome. And I think you're only allowed to do international stories from now on from faraway places.
Yeah, I can't wait to get something from, I don't know, Herzegovina or someplace like that.
That's actually pretty good. Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Too good. Okay. Katie G, case of the week. Do you have a case for us?
I do. So in the theme of things, I was looking through Dev's cases, actually, our guest, and I came across a case. And actually what I found out about it, so it's case number 76271 and case number 116327, same case. The guy actually reported it twice because he was so bewildered at what was in this video that he wanted to make sure it actually got investigated. So it actually was reported twice. But this happened May 7th, 2016, 3:00 in the morning, Fresno, California. 4 witnesses, all were reported to be credible. So there's a couple. Well, let me read it first and then we'll show the videos and the photos. So this was a trucker. And this was recorded, he said, this was recorded from my dash cam on May 7th, 2016, about 3 a.m. on I-5 around the 325 mile mark headed south. I was traveling with 3 other trucks who also saw this craft. They were like talking on CB radio. We saw bright white lights on what I thought was a plane moving from right to left. out in the distance going across the highway, maybe 2 miles out in front of us, very low to the ground. There was something odd about the way it maneuvered. I noticed lights reflecting in my passenger window and thought it was from the oncoming traffic, and I glanced over to see what it was and saw this craft coming straight at me. I thought it was going to crash into me at that point. It had 3 very bright white lights, like large round spotlights across the front edge of the vehicle. When I say edge, that's all I could make out, as it didn't look to have body or height to it. As it approached, it slowed and turned and banked almost in place at the same time and came over the top of my truck. It made no sound, had no wings, no marking lights, no fuselage, no tail. Nope, it was no plane, no drone, no helicopter. We were traveling at about 60 to 63 miles per hour, and as you can see, it was moving just a bit faster than we were going. It may have been about 50 feet above us. So this case was closed as an unknown UAV. And what I really loved about the investigator on this case, she says, I came across this case from MUFON, case number 56732, that I feel is important. I also searched the internet and have found very similar cases in that area since 2002. There are many reports of a craft that acts like the one reported in this case. What they all have in common is flying on I-5 around the Fresno area and down along I-5. The reports mentioned how the craft flies directly over the vehicle, and the witnesses think the craft is going to crash into the window. And so she included some sites to go to, and one of them you can clearly see, and it was reported earlier in the evening, and it does look like a crop duster plane, but on the crop duster planes you can see the blinking lights. So if we want to roll, I have 3 videos. Oh, I want to say something about the video. So the original videos has the truck sound and the highway sound and a lot of cussing. There was a lot of F words. So I actually had Steve dub over the sound, and I had him say exactly what they were saying minus the cuss words. So this is what they originally say, but somebody else's voice, and I slowed it down. So we'll just roll these videos really quick. Amanda?
This thing, man, I can't make it out. It's a freaking diamond. Look at this freaking thing. It's unfreaking believable. It's a spaceship, man. Look at this thing. Unbelievable. There's no airports out here. I know that's no airplane.
Okay, the next one is slowed down a little bit.
This thing, man, I can't make it out. It's a freaking diamond. Look at this freaking thing. It's unfreaking believable. It's a spaceship, man. Look at this thing. Unbelievable. There's no airports out here. I know that's no airplane.
And then one more time, really slowed down. And now if we can bring up the map of the area, I thought this was important because so this was included with the case. And I mean, I could see where maybe there's crop dusters out there because it looks very rural. But really there was no reported super close airports or anything like that. And the second picture there, Amanda, or that one is I took a screenshot of the film, and that's what it looks like there stilled. And then that third picture there is what the witness drew from his perspective of what he thought it was. So what do you guys think?
Wow. I've got thoughts. Chris, do you want to go first? Or
I don't know about a crop duster, because I would think that crop dusters would have to have collision lights that would blink on and off, and there's no collision lights on that. That's number one. Number two, I'm looking at the drawing, and the drawing is unique. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of one of those things where you say, wow, that's kind of different from the traditional. I'd have a little suspicion if it was a traditional triangle, say, oh yeah, okay. Yeah, they're just drawing what they might have thought. But I mean, she was very particular about how she drew that. So I don't know. I'd like to have that sent to a photo analysis and have them take a look at it. I think that's an interesting case.
Yeah, this is a great one. I mean, I think truckers know crop dusters. Any trucker, driving through that area regularly. I love that there's multiple witnesses. That's great. It seems way too slow. I mean, way too low for even, a small plane or crop duster. The fact there's no sound, other cases in the area. I mean, it's a really great case. Like you said, no blinking lights. I mean, that's so odd. So I'm really excited about this one.
Thanks. And I'm anxious to talk to Deb about this one as well. So we'll have to kind of ask her about that when she comes on in a little bit.
Definitely.
Awesome. All right. So, Chris, did you happen to catch up with Bob this week?
I did. Our international director came up with a great story. Very interesting video that he has. And, well, let's go with it, Amanda.
Hi, everybody. This is Bob Spearing, MUFON's Director of Investigations on the international side. And I have a case today, a video from Adelaide, Australia, from a witness named Glenn. It is an orange orb case, and maybe it's not. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you the video, and it's important that you let the video go all the way to the end watching it. And in your head, while you're watching it, you try to figure out what it is. It's a little bit washed out. The orb is bright orange. And as it gets toward the bottom of the orb, it turns more of a white color. And I'll go into everything after we watch the video in its entirety. Let it roll, Chris. Okay, so there's 4 things we can analyze here. If you haven't guessed by now, it's not an orange orb, it's a Chinese lantern. And there's several hints. One, Chinese lanterns are darker at the top and they get brighter towards the bottom, because at the bottom is where you have the fuel source, sometimes a candle, sometimes a piece of cardboard covered in wax, which when it ignites, heats up and lets the balloon float. The second giveaway are the fireworks. Fireworks usually are associated with 2 holidays. In America, the 4th of July, and around the world, in most countries, New Year's Eve. When you look at the date and time of this video, it was taken at 1 o'clock in the morning on New Year's Eve. That's a dead giveaway that this is a Chinese lantern, which are always seen in conjunction with fireworks. The final hint is at the very end of the video. You see the lantern go out. The fuel source is exhausted and it begins to fall in the dark to the ground with its flame extinguished. This is an IFO. This case will be closed as identified flying object, Chinese lantern. That's it for this week. Thank you, Chris, for having me on, and hopefully I'll be here next week to show you some more stuff. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. He gets right to it, doesn't he? I mean, Chinese lantern. There is one rumor, or I shouldn't say rumor, but there is one theory that goes around that UFOs do like to watch our fireworks. I mean, they like to study them. And I don't know, maybe they want to see how we celebrate things, or maybe they like the stuff blowing up. I just hope that some of them don't come down and think that we're shooting at them, But there have been actual sightings of UFO by the fireworks. So you got to take every one of those seriously.
That's true. And people like bringing up drones for fireworks. So a lot of people go take their drones up and look for or take pictures of the fireworks. But I really like how he explained that that's probably what it was, because if it was that, you can always watch it and you'll see it come back down. Plus, they'll often have little blinking lights. And so I like how he described that it just sort of, the flame went out and disappeared. But you're right, Chris. I've heard that rumor as well.
Yeah,
so
very educational. I always love his reports.
Yeah, for sure. Katie, do you have a quick book recommendation before we
I
bring Deb on?
do. Yes, I do. So, no doubt that our viewers are probably all very familiar with Jim Peniston. He's working on a second book, but I wanted to remind everybody about his Rendlesham Enigma Book 1 timeline. You've got it on the shelf up there too, I bet.
Yeah.
So in it, he details the binary code, that he's famous for writing, right after his experience. And he does now believe, as you guys probably know, that they are coordinates, which I just find so interesting. I talked to him a couple of years ago, actually, at the MUFON Symposium out in Irvine, California. And I just thought it'd be fun to show a little excerpt from that talk and remind everybody about the book. So Amanda, can you run that?
You're one of I think you're the only person I know of that's had an encounter where you touched a craft, and I have to believe they let you do that.
They let me do a lot. I tell you what, it's not hostile. Whatever this phenomenon is, it's not hostile. I'm living proof of it right now here. Yeah. So and when all the light dissipated and that it was opaque black craft, and even the coloring that was running through it stopped. It allowed me to touch it multiple times. I mean, from trying to push it because I didn't know how it was it was above the forest floor, but the light somehow wasn't light. I mean, it was obvious technology that could make it stand there. It would move, and so.
What advice do you have for other contactees?
Stick to the facts. Don't deviate from them. It's tempting at times, but don't do that. Stick to the facts on it. And I'll tell you another thing that you can't help, and I think it's because we all have cameras on us now. But I'll tell you what, I only took those pictures, from my crash kit up to the forest entrance. I used them all. But you know what? I don't think I would have used a camera after I was up there. I was just too fascinated by what was going on. And I think that happens to other people too. I mean, all of a sudden you watch what's going on. I mean, lights in the sky, and it's really odd. And the last thing you do is pull a camera out.
Right.
You're just like, I don't want to take my eyes off this.
But thank God you have witnesses. Thank God that didn't happen to you alone. That would just give me so much comfort.
Yeah, pretty well freaked out the working flight. I mean, Sergeant Chandler, who was at the East Gate, my flight chief from Delaware, when I went back to turn a weapon, and I said, "Oh, you won't believe this! I seen everything." I said, "Oh man."
Were you just like, "Thank you"?
Yeah. Well, no, I wasn't even thinking anybody doubt me. I never did. As a matter of fact, the Air Force never did.
Wow, that's great. Because you know what a lot of people go through when they say that they've seen craft.
I'll tell you what the rough part is the public. It's not the Air Force. The Air Force, I was on duty. I mean, my credentials were established where I went. I had top secret clearance. Critical naval base. No, you don't do stuff like that.
What's next for you?
Well, I want to finish book 2. I only got 2 chapters, I think, to do, and I think Gary's going to do the bulk of it. Any proceeds we get from this book, up to this point, it's all been given to charity, but for books and honorariums. But this time, I think we're going to take a portion of it, at least my portion, and we're going to visit the rest of these coordinate sites. The binary code.
Okay.
That's what they are. They're coordinate sites.
They're coordinates. They're physical places.
Yes, they are physical places. And you know what's the amazing thing about this discoveries? Everything's with this binary is down to the inch. It's not like globally down to the inch. I don't know. How's that happen?
What are you going to find, I wonder?
Well, we're hoping to find the same thing we found the first 2. We're researching it. Okay. We'll leave it like that.
All right. Little tease there.
No, it's not the tease, but I want to make sure. I figure after 3 of them, it'll be accurate.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
So I definitely recommend the book. Katie, you've got yours there too, right?
You can use them as weights too. Like if we had 2 copies.
This is how Katie and I get our exercise and work out our arms. It's fascinating. And you would think a book this large, you're like, I'm never going to read it. I just like to pick it up and just randomly go to a page, and I get totally drawn in. It's a really cool book.
It is.
Yeah.
Now, I will tell you something about his thing that makes it so credible, is that he applied for a disability from the Veterans Administration. And if you know anything about the VA, trying to get a disability retirement or disability from them is like pulling teeth from a great white shark. I mean, so they absolutely investigate this thing like there's no tomorrow. Not only did they get it, but they classified his disability that people can't see it.
Yeah,
That makes
That's
it very
delicious.
credible.
very, very strange. Yes.
Very strange.
Well,
Hmm.
definitely one of the most famous contactees and experiencers in history, for sure.
Well, that is a great book recommendation. Thanks, Katie, for doing that. And I just absolutely love the fact that you have so many of these little videos that you have taken through the years at these conferences. Like, gosh, that is such a smart thing to do. I mean, wow.
Well,
so great.
it's
So
fun.
thank you for
Yeah. And
doing
I
that.
I love to share that with people and promote these books, but I need to get out there and gather more. We all do. It's
Right.
never ending,
Yeah.
right?
That's right. All right. I think now would be a great time to bring on our guest, Dev. Dev Rugne has over 40 years of UFO research and independent investigative experience. She became interested in UFOs at an early age and had many UFO sightings. Her main interest has been the abduction phenomenon, with a high interest in close encounter cases with unknown crafts. After moving up to Portland, Oregon, Dev rejoined MUFON in January of 2008 and became the Oregon MUFON chief investigator. Moving back to Northern California in early 2010, she became a section state director for 7 counties, then became the chief investigator later that year. Dev is now the assistant state director and is on the STAR team. She has spoken at several chapter meetings, conferences, UFO-related radio shows, podcasts, and has been on a couple of TV shows. Dev is also an experiencer, and she is also the Regional 1 Director for the North American Dogman Project, and she covers 11 states in the West. Also, one of those states is my home here in Colorado, and I'm anxious to talk to her about the Dogman, just as well as UFO and her abduction encounters. So let's please welcome Dev Rugne to the show. Welcome, Dev. So
Hello,
glad
Dev.
you're with us.
Hi, you guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for
Hey,
being
Dev,
here.
thank you for being here. I'd like to start out. Let's get right into it, Dev. I'd like to start out, and I want to take you back to 1969 when you were an 11-year-old child, and you were in a tree, and the next thing you know, you were on the ground. And the second part of that story is that you went to somebody to try to break through that mental block to find out what happened to you, and you finally did. Tell us that complete story, would you, Dev? It's interesting.
Well, yes, it's really the basis of what I really believe got me interested in the UFO phenomenon. Because when I was 11, that summer, I was hanging out in the tree in front of our house, and as a kid, you're up in a tree. It's like your second nature to be up there playing and spying on all the other kids. And during that summer, I was up there every day. But one day, I'm up in the tree, and the next moment, I find myself waking up, like consciously waking up on the ground, probably about maybe 6 feet to 8 feet away from the base. Now, what's interesting about this tree is whoever planted it, it was on like a man-made mound.
Oh, wow.
And it was the tree base was not on the ground, like on the grass. So there was this man-made mound that surrounded it. And surrounding that mound was like a dark gray coral rock. It had all these little tiny holes in it. And if you kind of touch it, it was sharp to the touch. So when I was waking up off the ground, I was thinking to myself, what am I doing here? And I looked up at the tree, knowing I was there a second ago, but I couldn't understand. I got up, I started to kind of brush myself off. I was wearing shorts. It was summertime. And I walked up to the tree and I'm looking up and thinking, what happened? Why? I knew, I mean, I was only 11, but I wasn't stupid. I knew if I fell out of the tree, I would have, because
You would think you'd know, right?
well, here's the thing. The tree trunk kind of branched out, right? Kind of like that. And I was positioned in between. So, you know, if I fell or I lost consciousness or got dizzy or something, I would have fell on those rocks and I would have been hurt. I mean, because they were kind of on the sharp side, and I would have just tumbled right near, you know, that base. But I was way over here, so I knew I didn't fall, and I had no recollection of losing consciousness or falling asleep. You know, like, you know how kids are that age. They're not going to just be tired. I was never tired. So it always bothered me. But then after a while, I forgot about that incident. But at that time, that was 1969. And that was when they landed on the moon, right?
Okay.
And my mother, because I started to get really interested in UFOs, like, you know, those 50 movies, Earth versus flying saucers. And I was so into that. I would just like be sitting in front of that TV watching those things. And my mom would get upset because it was like, get out of the house. I'm trying to clean. But she knew I was really interested in that subject of flying saucers and stuff. And when that summer when they landed on the moon, she came and got me out from, you know, I was outside playing. She said, come inside. And, you know, I'm standing there in front of the TV and the moonwalk is happening and all this. And I was not in the bit excited. I remember making a comment like, really, the moon? You know, like, to me, that was just, it. I don't know. There was no like, oh my God, and, you know, excited. It was just very strange how I reacted to it. But fast forward, I was climbing up on the roof of the house constantly to lay up there and look at the sky. And my mom was getting upset with me. She'd say, you know, get off that roof. And finally, after telling me a lot of times to stop doing that, and I wasn't listening, she finally decided to ask me, why do you keep going up there? You know,
I would ask you the same thing too.
Well, she was worried. We were renting the house, and she was worried that, I don't know, I was going to fall through and ruin the property. Never mind me breaking my neck. But I said, to answer her question, I said, I'm going up there laying on the roof so I could look at the sky, and I'm wondering like what's out there. And, you know, and she just said, okay, you need to stop, just stop. So I ended up forgetting about that tree incident. And a few years later, I started to, you know, my interest in UFOs were still there. But I was going to the library. This is way before the internet, way before any of that. I went to the library and I was getting my hands on everything I could about UFOs. And then I remembered what had happened when I was that child, right? And I just kept wondering, like, what happened. So fast forward into the 70s, I was a teenager, and I was talking to everybody about UFOs, and I was made fun of a lot back in those days. And my dad was pretty much telling me, you know, it's nice that you're interested in something, but you need to remember people are going to think you're crazy if you go around talking about this subject. And I just felt like, wow. And I told him, one day, you watch, this is going to be a household word, you know.
Yep.
So in 1990, you know, Vicki Ecker, she had started UFO magazine in the 80s. Well, I ended up with a subscription to that magazine, and you know, I read it all the time. And in 1990, they profiled a hypnotherapist here in the Bay Area, Helen Billings, I believe, yeah. And I thought, oh, I need to go see her and find out what happened. There was another incident that happened when I was 24. I had a close encounter of some object in the backyard of my parents' house. I had moved back in with my parents just to save a little money, and there was a well, I went outside to get my cat, and the weird thing is my cat was not an outdoor cat. She was declawed, and I normally would never let her outside, but for some reason I put her out there in the backyard, and this backyard was not really functional where we would go out there and sit and everything. There was a lot of I don't know, like trees and stuff, but nobody really went out there a lot. So I went out there to get my cat. This was around 1983, and it was kind of dusk, but the sky was overcast, and I went out there, and I heard like a very low, like a humming. Now that I think about it, I guess it was more like a, you know, like a transformer, kind of like, you know,
Sure,
humming, like
yeah,
yeah, kind of a
absolutely.
low. And when I walked out to the backyard, I followed the sound, and there was this huge object just hovering there, and I gasped. I was just like, now I'd never gasped a day in my life, and never even after that happened.
I'd be doing a lot more than gasping. I could tell you that right about now.
Startled me. It startled me because of the size, and it was just hovering. And I felt really uncomfortable, but my focus was to get my cat, my beloved cat, you know, and I'm calling her, and I'm walking further out, and I'm kind of looking over at this object thinking, and I get my cat, and I pick her up, and I'm facing the fence, and I'm kind of thinking like, okay, I got to turn around, and I just want to get in the house, because it kind of freaked me out. And I just kind of turned around, and I just wanted to make a beeline to the house. I just wanted to get out of there.
Sure.
And I had her in my arms, and I'm walking, and I kind of looked up to see if it's still there, and it's still there. And I get in the house, nobody's home. Now I have a mom and dad, and I had sisters. So this was a two-story house, and nobody was home but my dad, who had just got home from work, and he was laying on the couch, dozing. He had the TV on, and I remember putting the cat down and going, Dad, the Goodyear blimp is going to hit the house. When I said that, the minute I spoke that, I knew that sounded ridiculous to me. And I'm looking at him, and he's got his eyes kind of closed, and he goes, uh-huh. And I'm just standing there looking at him like, oh my God, you know, I wanted him to come outside. I didn't want to go out there alone. Now here's the thing. I'm already I'm an investigator. You know, UFOs were my life. Still is. And I didn't want to go out there. And I kept thinking I should go out there, go underneath it, go in the front and see the other side of it, you know, whatever. And and then after that, I have no memory of what happened. Like, I told him about it, like, there's a blimp or something out there. It's going to hit the house. It's huge. And that's all I remembered. And I too forgot that incident until probably in the 90s, or late 80s. For a few years, I forgot about it. And then when I went to go see Helen Billings to find out about these two incidences, I was really nervous about hypnosis. I wasn't sure like what to expect for myself, because I didn't know, like, could I be hypnotized?
Weren't you scared?
I was afraid to find out what I was gonna learn. And when I went to see her, she was very good. She, you know, I felt very relaxed. I really liked her professionalism. She put me under, and we were trying to go back, and there was this like block. I couldn't see anything. I was really just seeing kind of blackness. And she was saying, so she brought me out, and she said, well, look, you're being blocked. Either it's your own subconscious trying to protect your conscious mind, or something else is blocking you. She goes, I'm going to try a couple things, but she didn't really break through. So, but she asked me under hypnosis, when was the first time you saw a UFO? Well, of course, I remember. I've seen many UFOs, and I don't mean lights in the sky. I'm talking craft. Okay. And I thought, oh, okay, I remember that. And then, but that's not what I said. I started to talk about, and I could see it in my mind's eye. I could see I'm standing on a ledge overlooking the desert floor, and there's this long cylindrical object resting on the floor. And I was talking about the canoe people were visiting my people. And I knew I was Native American. And at that time that I was speaking, I was about maybe a 12-year-old boy, Native American. I was Native American boy. And I looked down at myself, and I was, you know, I didn't have a shirt on, and I had something that just covered the front of my, you know, lower part of there.
Okay.
The thing is, I knew how that garment was made. It was so weird how it just kind of flashed in my mind. But the hypnotherapist wanted to know, why are you calling them the canoe people? Or she wanted to know more. I said, well, they came from the stars, and they come and they talk to my father, who was the chief. And you know, when you're under hypnosis, you can hear yourself talking. You could see what you're seeing. And there was a part of me that was like, whoa, what's this? What am I saying? You know? And at first I thought, am I making this up? That I was wondering that. There's a part of me that was thinking, well, where is this coming from? But I could see it in my mind, and I was speaking it. And then she asked, who do you know in this life that you knew then in that life? And immediately I said, my nephew Anthony, who, this boy, you know, when he was born, he was everything. We had such a huge bond. We still do. He's a grown man now with children of his own. But I saw that he was my baby brother in that life. And then I started crying. And that brought me out of hypnosis. And when I realized I was out, and I'm crying in front of this woman, I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know why I'm crying. And she goes, no. She says, you love that boy or man that he is now. I said, yes, I do. And I said, we had a huge bond, you know, like it was really amazing. And I said, Yes, I do. And she said, you're crying because emotions are real. Love is real. You loved him then, you love him now. Nothing has changed. And I realized at that moment, that's true. And whatever this lifetime was that I talked about, it dawned on me. UFOs have been in my lifetimes, obviously. Not
Deb,
just as Deb.
Can I jump in and ask you something really quick? We've literally got like 1 minute until we go to break, but it doesn't come up all the time that people have had contact experiences in multiple lifetimes. I mean, I've certainly heard that before, but just as an investigator, you've dealt with so many witnesses now. Again, we've only got like 1 minute before we go to break, and we can pick it up on the other side. But can you just tell me, have you come across that a lot in your investigations with your witnesses?
I've done almost 900 cases in 13 years and 13 or 14 years, and no one's told me that. No one's told me that. There was one lady that did say that she was in another lifetime, was on another planet.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that Dr. Leo Sprinkle, in his book Soul Samples that he has, he talks about the abduction phenomenon and past life experiences. And absolutely, here we have a minute before break, but that's something I want to explore more about the Native American connection and these canoe people. And interestingly enough, you know, I years ago in 2012, 2013, I was part of a Denver psychic development group and went through a past life regression meditation. And it's a very interesting, and we don't have to go too far into reincarnation and past lives, but I have heard that from a couple other people that they do say that they've been contacted in several lifetimes. So, you know, that's a really good question, Katie.
I know Dolores Cannon talked about that a bit too.
Right.
Yeah.
So when we come back from break, we'll talk more about these canoe people. And I think we're ready to be back to take a break, and hang in there with us. We'll be back soon. Thanks, guys.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
Families don't have to talk about everything, but they should talk about how to plan for an emergency. Get tips and resources to make your family's emergency plan.
Hey members, the new KGRA-DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA-DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA-DB.
Welcome to the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. Here you'll find great new content, including the KGRA Classics, great shows from our archives. You'll be able to see the show times and information so you can see what show is currently on air. The on-air live button, so just go to this section and you'll be able to hear the show live with exceptional sound quality. We also have the Vault section. Make sure to subscribe to get access to great content and special features. We have the make content for our latest news and events, so make sure to sign up and you can be part of our forum. So make sure to check out the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. We look forward to seeing you there, and we hope that you enjoy the new website.
Welcome back. We are joined by our guest, Dev Rugne. And I would like Dev just to continue on with the significance of the canoe people. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, I wanted to mention that back when I was 11, I was really into drawing. Like I was really interested in becoming an artist and all that. Almost every day of my life, it seemed like when I was a kid, I was drawing Native American scenes, of life, mountains, and then I put a little bird, and the teepees were along a river, and we had like a spit, where we cooked our food. So funny is that when you're a kid, you don't really realize the implications of just drawing scenes like that. I think my dad had asked me once, well, what's the significance of you always drawing about, Indians? That's what he said. And I just said, oh, I don't know. I didn't think of it. Would the hypnotherapist really, she didn't elaborate on me talking about the canoe people, other than she asked me the question of what do you mean by that? And I had said, well, they come in these long, what we would call canoes, but actually today we would say cylindrical objects, right? Cylindrical craft.
Mm-hmm.
So now that I think about the drawings from when I was around 11, I kept one of them. I still have it to this day.
Wow.
Yeah. Now this drawing that you're showing, I kind of
Doesn't look like a canoe to me.
Well, this is when I went to see Lori McDonald, who is a certified hypnotherapist for MUFON. I send a lot of my witnesses to her. She's right here in Sacramento, and I live in Rockland, so which isn't too far from Sacramento. And when I asked her to regress me so that I can, because I was ready. See, that's the thing. In 1990, Helen Billings asked me, after she brought me out, she goes, "Can I ask you a question? Are you ready to learn the truth?" And I sat there and I just said, no. In 1990, I was not ready. I don't think I wanted to know. I don't think I was ready. So fast forward, I went to Lori just a couple of years ago, and I actually.
Deb, before you go to Lori, though, I got to ask you this question. What do you think the connection to your dreams of Native Americans and the UFOs? Do you see a connection there? And if you do, explain, please.
I don't know if there's an explanation of a correlation between the two. I think that maybe, and again, this is speculation because I don't have any proof about that, is that when I was in that lifetime and these entities, these aliens, they landed, and we weren't afraid of them, and they were visiting us, and I don't really know what was saying because I was a child at the time, and my father, who was the chief, he would have known. I never asked.
This is in a past life, right?
Yeah, this is a past life. So
like the star people,
right? But I referred them as canoe because of the long canoe-like shaped objects they came in.
Okay.
I didn't have a name for it, obviously. But I think that my soul, and this is my belief, I've done a lot of past life regressions too, like past life work, let's put it that way, to find out some things about myself. And it's very amazing to me. But I think that my soul has been a part of them, you know, as far as like if I'm being taken in this lifetime and having all this exposure to them, I think your soul agrees to this kind of thing. And I think a lot of people who look at it in a negative way were like, oh, I was taken and how dare them. We all have the right to believe what we want to believe or feel what we feel, right?
Sure.
I was never angry about them taking me. I always wanted, in fact, when I was regressed just recently for the book, I asked that entity that of that drawing that you showed, why am I here? Because this is when I was 11. That's supposed to be my 11-year-old legs, skinny legs, because I was very tall and very thin. I was actually underweight for many, 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 many years.
Was the alien smiling like the picture?
No, if you look now,
cat-like,
it's looking at me. And so I was trying to give the idea that I'm laying on a table, okay? And it's standing, I don't know, can you see me? It's standing here and it's looking kind of down on me because I'm on this table and the table isn't higher than it. Now, it had bigger eyes than me, but they were like black, you know, like black. And here's the thing, I felt its nose area, its face was wrinkled, really kind of wrinkled. That was supposed to look like a wrinkled face because under hypnosis, I was trying to describe that it was short and short, but it kind of wrinkly or something. And that's what I meant was the face. Now, I was asking it why I was here. And, you know, it was kind of looking at me like, well, you know, and that we've been together before is basically what it was trying to tell me.
I feel like that's really common.
Yeah. And then at that point, when I was trying to talk to it, like, and ask, what am I doing here? What's going on? That's when this thing comes down over by my face, this big head, bubulous looking head, but it was on a really skinny, thin neck. And I couldn't really move my head around like this, but I can move my eyes. And I was just focused on its neck because I couldn't understand, being 11, how that big head was how that neck was holding up that big head.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's what I was kind of concentrating on, was that neck. I was like, oh man, like, what is this? It gave me the impression I thought it was spider-like, that being. All right. And I have arachnophobia bad. I mean, I cannot handle spiders. I mean, I'm always looking for them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I can't be.
I actually want to ask you that, but keep going.
Yeah. So anyway, it was coming down. It's trying to put its head or face near mine. And that's all I remember. Because I was under hypnosis for a long time because Lori had a really hard time trying to break through things. And she kept trying to reword and do this and that. And finally, that's when she was able to break through. And then I could see all this, you know, what was going on.
Okay.
As far as me being on the table.
So, okay. So Wow, I've got so much. Where do I start? Okay, first of all, the first line in the first chapter of your book, we are shaped and influenced by our experiences throughout our lives, whether we remember them consciously or not. So you ended up feeling compelled to do the work. Yes, thank you. To uncover this stuff, because obviously it affected you through your life and there was always something bubbling there. Let's touch on the arachnophobia for a minute. I have such bad arachnophobia, it will control where I even allow myself like to go in the world. I will research for hours, but try not to even, if I even see the picture, you know, of what kind of spiders can move in another country. I literally, I'm sure a lot of people think I'm joking about my arachnophobia. I literally, even talking about it, I'm gonna start thinking there's something in the room with me. I have no explanation for this level of fear that I have, and so many people will have kind of PTSD like things, and they don't even necessarily remember what happened to them. I'm wondering, as an investigator, because you're now an experiencer with all these memories, but you're also an investigator, you must recognize in your witnesses so many things. You must know in your head, oh my God, I know exactly why you're afraid of that, or what's going on here. But you also can't lead them as an investigator, right? You have to kind of keep it pure, if you will. Can you speak to that?
Well, yeah, and as an investigator, what I do on every case is I'll go through the case, the narrative, and just I write out in a tablet. I write out my questions because I'm trying to get as much information of the sighting. If they turn around and talk about a possible abduction and they're telling me about it, I don't ask those things like arachnophobia or anything. I let them tell me how they feel, how they're feeling, or what's going on. I was on the, in the book, it talks about, I was also a part of the SIP project, the Star Impact project that Bigelow and was funding, and for MUFON and all that back in 2009. So we were given protocols back then, and I kind of incorporated some of those questions that I would ask, you know, like psychic ability after, sighting or whatever. Did they notice after the event if they had any kind of unknown wounds or scars or anything like that kind of thing? And I think MUFON adopted that afterwards. But I don't ask those kind of things. If they want to talk about what's happened and they bring stuff up, I'll listen. And then if they ask me, well, have you ever seen a UFO? And I'll say yes. And, you know, I'll answer them, you know, like, yes. And then if they say, well, what did you see? Or what did you experience? I will share some of that, you know, and it really makes them feel like they're not alone.
Yeah.
They're happy about, oh, well, I'm glad I'm not the only one, you know.
That's what I wondered, because I'm thinking you can help so many people. So that's why I just wondered, like, you've got to know as an investigator, because I'm still learning how the investigators approach it, you know, where that line is. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. You know, Dev, let me ask you a question. What's your most remarkable case that you've done? I mean, you've done what, 900 cases?
Well, yeah.
You got to have one that said, what the hell is going on here?
Well, the book, okay, I put 30 cases in there that I really liked a lot, and a couple of them are my favorites. But let me just, can we go right back to that after I say something here?
Yeah, sure.
Katie brought up that sighting in Fresno. I really didn't work that case. I got the second time around. The case he put in a second time. When I went to see about that date, I saw, oh my God, he already put this in, and it was worked really good by Valerie, our investigator here. And I just want to say that whole Fresno area, which is Fresno County is part of NorCal MUFON. has many different amazing cases. And I wanted to say in the book, page 131 happened in the Fresno area. It was called Mendota, Highway 99. Because Highway 99 kind of runs parallel to I-5.
Mm-hmm.
And on page 182 in my book, I talk about another sighting in where the town is called Firebaugh, and that's off of I-5. But those two cases that are in that book are pretty amazing. One of them, the Fireball one, is a woman and her daughter. Her daughter was driving, and they were going north, traveling north on I-5, and they see this bright light, and over right on the side of the freeway. And as they got closer, she realized it came up and above the freeway, and then kind of flew to the side. It was like a diamond-shaped object. But the fascinating point of this case is she saw it fold like a clam and reverse its direction.
Wow.
So amazing. And I try to, all my cases, I am a very visual person, and I really appreciate art. I tried to put as many drawings, and I wanted the book to have color to show different things. Because everybody kept saying, oh, just make it black and white. And, I said, no. I want it to pop a little bit, to be able to kind of give it life, when it has color, these drawings and stuff. But so that I felt that was interesting. The case on page 131 was off of 99 in that whole Fresno area. That whole area is kind of crazy. But this woman was with a couple of her young teenage kids. They were at a family function, and they were going home all the way. I can't remember the name. Salinas. So it was quite a drive, and it was in the evening, and very high strangeness, because she normally would not take this route. They had stopped to use the restroom, and this area is very rural, and they stopped at a gas station, used the restroom, and she said, I don't understand why the GPS took her in a different way out in the middle of nowhere. And she ended up seeing rabbits, like white bunnies, standing up in the road. There was a UFO coming, like getting closer, but she said it seemed to stop and was hovering a little bit in the distance. And an owl came flying at their car windshield. She thought it was going to hit, but it didn't. And it kind of made her stop. And that's when they saw these like 3 white bunnies standing up.
Wow.
Well, I kind of thought, okay, this is like screen memory here.
Classic.
Those weren't bunnies, but that's what she said. But yeah, it was a horrifying ordeal for her and her family.
Wow. Mike Clellan just got on. Yeah, the white owls and the rabbits, the screen memories. I mean, wow. That is that's really
that's on that's on page 131. But anyway, so there's a lot of different cases that I have in this book that I just love. I guess, and I always say that this is probably another favorite, way up there for me, is a guy when he was 16 and his mom, they snuck out in the outside. They kind of lived in a rural area. They snuck out of the house to have a cigarette. The dad didn't know he smoked as a boy, and he didn't want his wife smoking. So they were like taking drags off a cigarette while the father husband was in the shower, and they were out there, and it was nighttime, and the mother looked up, and there was hovering above them a huge triangular object that had these blue lights at every corner and then a huge blue light in the middle. He said that he couldn't even come close to describing the blue that made up that color. He said it's almost like we don't have that blue color on Earth or something. But this thing was just hovering, and it was like 50 feet on each side, and it was like, I don't know, 100 feet up, really close. And the mother, she got so frightened that she screamed her husband's name, and it startled him, he said, that you could hear his father crashing through the house because, you know, he heard his wife screaming his name in terror. That the object just transformed into these different colored tubes of light in an explosion looking thing the size of that, what was the triangle. When the father came busting out of the back door there, nude, you know, just coming out of there, it transformed yet again to a red ball, a small red ball, and zipped away. Now the father saw the red ball and saw it zip away, and he goes, "Oh, that's just an airplane." But he didn't see the other stuff like the other two did.
Wow.
But this thing transformed.
Maybe they got scared because he was nude.
They're like, we're out. Right. We're out of here. Well, Dev,
Oh
that
my
first
gosh.
case, that first case you talked about, I mean, what the heck's going on in Fresno here? I mean, you said diamond shape, and that's what those truckers were saying. It's a beeping diamond, man. I mean, so what in the world? Are there military bases out there? But really quick, Amanda, I put in a picture here at the last minute as Dev was talking, and she brought up her photograph, and she explained that those were wrinkles. This actually is a drawing of a being that was seen out in Elbert County, Colorado, on that ranch that I had experiences on, and he had these wrinkles around his face, those same kind of eyes, and those spindly spider kind of arms. So when you were talking about the spidery, spindly, now of course the neck, you can't really see his neck, but does that look familiar to you? Is it similar?
Remember now, I'm talking two different entities that were with me.
Okay.
The little one with the you know, yeah, the little one at the foot of the table there that I was trying to speak to had a wrinkly face, but the big skinny spider-like whatever was at my head.
Oh,
and
scary.
it had fit, you know. And here's the thing, I'm really, really good friends with the hypnotherapist Laurie McDonald. We hang out a lot. In fact, I'm going to be seeing her on Saturday too. We're going to all go out to breakfast. But in December, we went over to her house, and there were some people over. We had a little get together. That day before, I had seen this praying mantis on a like a mat in front of this building that I deliver medications to, and I almost stepped on it. I was like, oh, it's a praying mantis, and I go, oh, it's going to get stepped on. So I kind of tried to push it aside so it wouldn't get squished, but it was kind of fighting me, and it was a big one, and I was flicking it, and it was kind of creeping me out, and it flipped over on its back, and its belly was exposed, and it was this bubulous, long, you know, ew. I was like, I almost couldn't handle looking at it. And I kind of helped it get back on its feet or whatever, like, oh God, all right, go. And I was trying to tell Lori that praying mantis bug, I now know was kind of similar to that. And she said, well, then you saw a mantis being. And I go, I guess so. When I was 11, I was associating it more with a spider because I never knew what a praying mantis was at age 11. Never heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, well, maybe we should put you under again. I don't know. I don't know if I want to relive that stuff. It's freaky,
That is fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. It was really, it dawned on me. I think it was more shaped like a praying mantis than a spider, but I didn't know what a praying mantis was then.
That makes sense.
And I thought that was interesting.
I've wondered with the spider thing, I wonder if it has something to do with their fingers and the way they touch us or the way they can move quickly or so. I don't really know what it is because it's not about the body shape necessarily, obviously. I have a couple thoughts. One, the picture came up too soon a while ago. That was me. I was looking through our pictures and accidentally flashed one up. So I didn't mean to throw you off a while ago. The one with you with the alien at the end of your feet there. Just want to make sure Amanda, doesn't get called out for that. That was me. Quick story. So you said your dad said to you, okay, people are going to think you're crazy if you talk about aliens. I just want to say this. I got fixed up on a date years ago, and about 5 minutes into the conversation, with this blind date, of course, I start talking about aliens because I always go there. And well, the guy never called back. Right. And so my friend tells me later, she was like, you just can't do that on a first date. And I was like, yes, I can. Because if he couldn't hang with it, he was never going to hang with it. So I'm just saying, let people think you're crazy. That's just my thing. But a question for you. You keep bringing up the hypnosis, and I'm so curious about this. I'm wondering if one of the things that came up in your sessions was whether or not this could have been generational. Are you the only person in your family that has had contact?
In my immediate family, like my parents and my sisters, nobody but me. But my dad's younger brother and his daughter, and so she's my cousin, and we were very close. And she's a lot younger than me, but we hung out a lot. And I was telling her, so she had bought this house, and we were in the garage, and I looked over, and she had a big cord of wood for the fireplace. And I said, hey, Black widows like wood. I go, you should make sure not to touch that wood barehanded. And she goes, oh, believe me. She goes, I'm always on the hunt to make sure there's no spiders. And I said, oh, you too? Well, then she showed me this scoop mark on her leg. Then she reminded me, oh, remember me and my mom had that UFO sighting of this long, cigar-shaped thing that was landed because they lived out kind of in a rural area over here. And I said, oh, that's right. And then she said, remember my dad had, a couple of UFO sightings. And when my uncle passed at a young age. So prior to that, when he told me about his sightings, I said, Tom, how come you never told me about it? You knew I was into UFOs. He said, oh, well, you don't go around talking about that kind of thing. But yeah, so my uncle and my, and his family, yeah.
Interesting. Are you guys hearing that howling sound?
Yeah, I thought it was a cat. It's
what is
not
that?
A cat. It's not coming from here.
Okay, it's not coming from here.
Not coming from here.
It's got to be you, Deb. You don't hear it? Okay, that's really weird.
It's been through the whole show too. Like,
yeah, it's like a banshee screaming outside or something. I guess maybe wind or something, but it's not here.
All right. Well, listen, let's go into something else that's really weird. Hey, listen, this show has everything that's weird, from butchering names to UFOs to God knows what else. So let's get even stranger. Dogmen. I don't know anything about dogmen.
I don't either.
But you study dogmen. What is that, a dogman?
Oh. Okay.
Okay, that's ugly.
Is he the one making the noise?
Yeah, maybe.
Well,
So what's a dogman, and is it related to? Here's a three-part question. What's a dogman? Is it related to the Bigfoot? And is it any connection to a UFO?
let's see. So
There we
here is Dogman, and here is Bigfoot.
Ah.
Okay.
So if you look, I tried to. So I'm looking at these two different creatures. So basically, Bigfoot is kind of stocky and thick, with more of a hominid, kind of human-like, and its feet are huge, but it has, like a man, toes, regular foot. I don't know if you could, but anyway, and it's about 9 feet tall or so. Dogman. The problem with this little the problem with this figure is the ears are usually like a Doberman Pinscher, straight up.
Okay.
Okay. They're usually black. Now there has been some that are brown, and they've got a little silver in them on the back of their, the back there. They have huge shoulders, and then their waist tapers down in the middle, and then their thighs are really big and muscular. So this just looks like it's on steroids, right? This creature.
It looks more like a werewolf to me.
Yes. And some will, a lot of times people will talk about a tail. Sometimes they are not in a position to see a tail, so they don't know. The legs can be hawk-like, like a dog, kind of like the backwards, how what a dog's legs look like, it's backwards, like that. Some of them.
Ooh, let me see your leg. Yeah, you're right.
And their hands are, they're not paws. They actually, their hands are, how do I say it? They can actually they can actually open a car door. They can open up a knob, a doorknob. They're they have
they
like
ever entered anybody's house?
Yeah, there's research that says yes. They've opened up a door. They've opened up a car door. Their nails, their claws are probably about 2 inches long. I mean,
Amanda's saying like raccoon hands. Like,
yeah,
raccoons would be like, I'm just over here knitting,
Yeah, like that. Yes, exactly.
I don't know. This weird thought came. I wonder if they're carjacking. If they can open a car door, maybe that's what's going on in Los Angeles. Is that there's carjackers down there, Dogman carjackers.
They'd be like, yeah, sure.
And they're about 7 feet tall. 6, 7 feet tall, depending on. Some have seen 2 of them together, and one of them a little bit smaller, so they're assuming it was female, that the larger one was male. But I got to tell you, and all the research I've done with this thing, I have not seen this creature. In some ways, I'm kind of glad.
Yeah.
It sounds really scary. There's been many people, like seasoned hunters, that go out in the woods, armed to the teeth, and there have been many of them that have said when they came across this creature, they didn't know what they were seeing. They didn't know what it was, but it reminded them of a werewolf, and it scared the hell out of them to the point where they were using the word terror. They weren't just scared, they were terrorized. I mean, men that are out there used to hunting, they're used to natural predators like bear and mountain lion. They know how to handle that kind of thing. But then when they come across something like this, they pretty much freak out. And several of them have given up hunting forever. They will not go back out.
Wow.
Yeah.
So have these ever been like reported like a skinwalker? Could they be skinwalker type creatures like at the Skinwalker Ranch? They had those
Well,
big
yeah,
dogs out there.
that was one of the reasons why I was interested in Skinwalker Ranch, was because they had seen a dog-like creature like this. And the thing about Dogman and Bigfoot is they're also seen in conjunction with UFOs. So
yeah,
I
Is
also
there a-
think that they have the ability to go in and out of portals, because a man did say that when he saw one, he was trying to slowly back up and kind of back away from it, a dog man, right? And it kind of turned and then went behind this bush, but he waited for it to come out because he was afraid to turn his back on it. He thought it was going to come after him, but he waited and waited, and he goes, where the heck is it? So he mustered up the courage to go and look behind that bush area, and there was nothing there. He said there was no way that thing could have just walked away without him seeing it walk away.
Wow.
So, you know, these things can almost outrun a car. So if you're in a car and you're trying to floor it, it could keep up with you on two legs.
Wow. Is there a place people can go to report this? I know that you had mentioned you're the regional director. Is there a website? I think there is a website you could go to.
Yeah. North American Dogman Project.com.
There it is. There it is. And do you have any reports out of Colorado? I'm just curious.
There have been in the past, but it's nothing recent. And I do have two people in Colorado, two investigators. One's an investigator, one's a researcher. So nothing lately that has been posted or anything. So yeah.
Interesting.
Dev, I want to switch gears a little bit because we're trying to get in a lot with you in a short amount of time. You talk also about having out-of-body experiences, OBEs, and I've always wondered, because I've had a lot of that too, and I'm curious if you think this is kind of a chicken or egg question, I guess. Like, do you feel like somebody who's maybe had contact is going to be more likely to then have out-of-body experiences? Or do you think these entities could even be drawn to people that they know are more likely to have out-of-body experiences? Any thoughts on that?
It could be that, again, I'm speculating here. I don't have answers. I can only talk of my experiences and what I have learned. It could be because I know I was taken at a young age, and then because I'm psychic in a way, and I talk about it in the book. So that could be why. Back in let's see. So, oh yeah, in the 90s. So in the 90s, in 1996, I went to the Monroe Institute for a week to learn about OBEs. You know, it's in the book as well. But let me just say, I think what prompted me to go to the Monroe Institute for this Gateway program, I was already having out-of-body experiences, because what was happening is at night when I'd go to sleep, I would try to, drift off. But at some point, I was aware of me kind of going up and out, and then I was conscious of it, and I slapped right back down into the body. And I was like, man, what, like this was happening. So when I went to the Monroe Institute, it was because of that. And I ended up, learning about how to use certain tools when you come out and stuff like that. So like you said, chicken or the egg, what came first? I don't really know, but I suspect because when I was a kid and being taken, that I became more psychic, because that's what was happening, was I was starting to play around with that as well. Mm-hmm. I love to tell this really quick story. I wanted to go to the casino. I wanted to go to Lake Tahoe to gamble. This was in the 90s. And I had told my girlfriend, I said, look, let's go up to Tahoe. And she goes, well, I don't have any money. And I go, well, I know, either do I. She goes, well, how the hell are we supposed to go? I said, look, just hear me out. I've got $20. She said, what? I said, look, I need a new bed because my back is killing me, and I want to buy the most expensive bed I can buy because I'm not getting good night's rest. Plus, I had a really bad headache that day because my neck was messed up. So she said, man, you're crazy. But she goes, whatever. And I said, no. This is what we're going to do. We're going to think about, put it out there. I'm going to win this money, blah, blah, blah. She said, okay, whatever. She goes, you better just buy me lunch. And I go, that's fine. So I took my $20, went up, and we get there, and it's around noon or so, and I'm saying, all right, let's have a little bite to eat on this $20. She goes, well, don't spend too much of it, right? Because you need it to, gamble. I said, don't you worry about that. So ended up having lunch, and I told her, okay, I need to be alone because I need to focus. So I think I gave her $1. I go play the penny machines or something, right? So what happened was I had $7 left. Okay. And what I did was I walk around to the machines, and I soften my focus. And I'm walking, and I only played dollar machines. So I'm looking, and then I come up to this machine, and I go, okay, this is it. It was on the edge. So I sit down, and I'm going, all right. So I've got the dollar things, right? And I put in 3. The maximum was 3. Pulled the handle, and I got like a cherry, and I got like $2 back. And I'm going, ugh. So then I ended up, I think, putting another 3 in, got another cherry or 2 or whatever. And then I look over, and the exact same machine is next to me, right? I'm thinking, well, maybe it's this one. So I scoot over, and I put in 3 more, and I pull the handle, another cherry or whatever, get a couple more. I have $4 left. And I go like this. No, it's the one on the end. I need to go back to the front. So I sit on there on the chair, and my head is splitting because my neck is so out of whack. I have a migraine from hell. So I have 4 coins left, $4 left, and I need 3. 1, 2, 3. Pull the handle. Boom! $10,000, baby.
Oh my God!
Have you ever dreamed about the lotto numbers? About the Mega Million? Let me know. Text me. Holy crap!
It was so amazing. It was so amazing, though.
Okay. Did you get your new bed? Dev?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so Dev, I went to Monroe and I did the Gateway experience too. And it's funny because I was not remotely wanting to have anything to do with OBEs because I had them so much when I was younger and they scared me to death. And I accidentally had one there. So I just side note to anybody that keeps hearing us bring up Monroe, it's a very powerful place. And if you go there.
What year did you go?
3 years ago.
Oh, 3 years ago.
Really
Okay.
recent. But Joe, I'm forgetting his last name now. One of the instructors does a whole thing where you go to Vegas and you get a group of people together and you meditate on, like making it work for you. But apparently they're not upset. Like the dealers, they love the groups from Monroe coming out because, all these people start gathering around and there's all this excitement. And so anyway, maybe we can all do that at some point. I think that would be really fun. That's all I got. I just had to throw that in when you said Monroe. I was like, I had an accidental OBE there. It was crazy.
Go ahead, Chris.
I've never had an OBE. I've lived a very boring supernatural life. So, I mean, please explain, is there different levels of OBE? I mean, I've somebody told me that you go to level 1, then you can go to level 2, then there's a level 3 consciousness. I have a hard enough time just waking up in the morning, let alone out of body experience.
Yeah, well, I went a long time ago, back in 97 or 96. And, they teach you, and it's almost like the different levels, they only go up to so much because the gateway program is only one program. And then you have to take that and then to go to like a level 21, which is the park or something they called it, and where souls go and this and that. But, because it's been so long and I don't really like practice that kind of thing.
Okay. How many levels are there? You said there's 21?
Well, 21 is Katie. Katie Cook? Would you say that it was? There's a 21, but that's a different class.
Well, we went
to go to 21.
Yeah, we
because there's a bridge.
Yes,
they talk about a bridge.
We did that, but Chris, these are meditations that we're talking about, like the levels that you learn at Monroe. That's a meditation. That's really quite different than having a true OBE, where you may just be in the room where you laid down and actually be touching things and moving around. Like you can go way far. You can go super astral.
Well, I guess my question is to the two of you, because like I said, I've never had an OBE, is there different levels of OBEs where you're hanging around your room, and then maybe you're flying to Russia, and then the next thing you know, you're on Jupiter? I mean, I don't know. That's why I'm asking you.
Well, Bob Monroe, that's part of this whole thing that he created, is to teach you how to control it. A lot of people, the first few times they're going to have an OBE, are going to panic and just be shot right back in. It actually can take a lot of skill for most people to actually learn how to be calm and go with it and to relax into it and then actually be able to control it a little bit. And then in theory, yeah, you could say I need to fly out to Russia, but that's, are you going to do that on your first try? Probably not. I think for most people, it's trippy enough just to realize you can put your hand through the wall. That can be enough to just make you spring right back in.
And is it different than a lucid dream? Because I lucid dream quite often and control my dreams and redream my dreams, and but is that different than an out of body experience?
I think it's completely different, but I'll let Dev weigh in.
I would say yes. When you say lucid dreaming and you're controlling, in other words, when you go to bed at night and you say, well, I want to dream about this. Is that what you're saying? Well, that your intent is that you want to?
I could do that too, but while it's like I'm aware in your dream and you're making decisions in your dream. And if you don't, or sometimes you'll have a precognitive lucid dream where you know where the dream will go and you want to make it go a different direction. So you're kind of in there manipulating your own dreams and you're kind of conscious of it.
Mm-hmm.
I do that almost on a nightly basis. And I've had a couple weird experiences where I've suddenly woken up where I felt like my body was somewhere else. So that might be an OBE. And and like what you said, Katie, I was just like so freaked out by it. It felt so real, like I was there. And I was like, whoa. And you pop back in your body.
Yeah. And so then that's another thing. That's another thing when you talk about dreams. Some of them aren't dreams. Some of them are you're remembering past lives, and that happened to me many times. Like I I remember waking up because I got shot in the leg. And I woke up and I actually grabbed my leg because I was just shot in the leg in that dream. And when I woke up, I grabbed my leg like, oh my God. And I realized, oh, you know, and then I also had
Who shot you?
Oh, well, I was on a ship and we were being shot at. So, but, and I didn't really get into all that. It was just kind of trippy to me that I really thought that I got shot at that moment, you know, here. And then like, having dreams of your past life, I had, it wasn't a dream. It was actually, I was remembering a past life, and it was a Native American past life. And we were being attacked by a neighboring tribe. And it was in such detail, and I had to kill a guy. And when
You don't say that on air.
it was past life. This is not now. But when that happened, it really affected me. It really affected me, remembering that. But anyway,
I love how the detective is coming out in Chris, the eye detective. We've only got a few minutes left, but I just to touch on the whole dream thing. God, I'd love to have you back on, Dev, and talk a lot more about this side of it too, because it's so interesting. But Katie G, to answer your question, I definitely think one can lead to the other. You can be in the middle of a lucid dream and then all of a sudden in real life be pulled out of your body. They can very much run together. And Bob Monroe talks a lot about how similar those states can be. They are different, but it doesn't mean they can't be connected.
Interesting. And I think it's interesting too, because, you know, through talking with experiencers and reading and researching and all that, I mean, there's this consciousness connection to the UFO abduction experiencer connection that talk a lot like commonalities for these people. We're more precognitive, psychic, past life connections, lucid dreaming, all these things. So I think they all do tie together to the UFO abduction experiencer phenomenon. You hear it time and time again. Would you agree?
Experience, right? That pulls it out.
Yeah. So we only
never
have
had this, but I'm fascinated by it.
So you have a website, Northern California MUFON. Yep, there it is. And what's going on? What do you got going on this year in Northern California MUFON? Are you guys getting back into in-person meetings yet, or?
Well, I run the Rockland MUFON group. We have been doing Zoom, and in April, we're going to go ahead and meet in person. A lot of people are excited. They're really tired of, you know, not being together and having that, you know, friendship.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we made a lot of friends that you make friends and you get to know everybody, and it's fun. And, you know, I always have it at like a round table pizza. This way, you know, food and people, they go together. Everybody loves to, you know, be able to just relax and eat and chat. So that's going to happen in April. And so hopefully, you know, all that will work out. And yeah.
And I hope to see you in July at the Denver Symposium. I hope you can make it out there. I mean, it's a drivable distance. You can get out here to Colorado.
Well, I'm going to try. I'm just wondering, you know, like what's going to happen with, you know, the airlines and all that, you know, because for me to drive, kind of hard.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. And I want to recommend everybody go grab Dev's book off of Amazon if you can. I want to thank you so much for being our guest.
Thank you.
It's fascinating. Like Katie said, we'd love to have you back on. Thanks to Katie Cook, Chris DePerno, Bill Skywatcher, our producer, Amanda Curran, our co-producer. Next week, we have Jim Mann coming on. So that'll be a great show. And I'm so glad you guys all could join us tonight. Dev, again, thank you. This has been a fascinating topic. I know we hit on so many different things, Dogman and astral past lives, all of it, all that good stuff. So thanks again for being here, Dev. And hopefully we'll see you sometime soon. Yeah. So everybody have a great rest of your week, and we will see you next Thursday. Bye, everybody.